From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Friday night. I'm Russ Riesinger. It was one of President Joe Biden's first acts in office, an executive order halting construction of the controversial Keystone XL Pipeline. Well, today, Montana Governor Greg Gianforte flew to Phillips County to get an up-close look at one of the now shuttered sites where work had been taking place. That pipeline would have cut through parts of 6 eastern Montana counties. The project has received support from all 3 members of Montana's congressional delegation, and without it, a State Department report estimates a more than $55 million property tax loss in the first year of operation across 27 U.S. counties. MTN's Coulter Anstad was with the governor today and has our report.
Could you talk again about the impact of this executive order on Barnard Construction?
Governor Greg Gianforte made 3 stops Friday, all focused on hearing directly from those impacted by President Joe Biden's Keystone XL Pipeline decision. The first stop was a pipe yard in Phillips County.
I don't want to reveal the number, but it's hundreds of millions of dollars we've lost on this project.
Gianforte met with the president of Barnard Pipeline, a company laying some of the pipeline through the state.
This year, the first time in 46 years, we'll probably lay off 40 to 50 people. You can drive from here in the border to Nebraska and stop in every little town along the way, and you're going to find support for this project all the way through with the local people. It's devastating.
There's no good reason why Montanans have lost their jobs and are sitting at home right now, except that President Biden is trying to make a political statement and pandering to environmental extremists.
Would have quadrupled the size of your co-op.
Correct.
In terms of customer base.
The next stop was a pole yard owned by Big Flat Electric Co-op. Employees talked about the impact of not being able to supply electricity to pipeline pump stations.
This would have stabilized rates across at least a 3-county region.
Correct.
Here, and that probably replicates itself all along the pipeline,
right.
all the way down.
You're talking Norval, Macomb, and Tongue River. So it's not just northeast corner. It goes all the way down to the southern border of Montana. So it's affecting us directly in Blaine, Phillips, and Valley, but it's affecting Montana.
Alan, what would you want to say to the Biden administration?
Well, what can we do to have you reconsider?
The final stop of the day was a roundtable discussion in Glasgow with a wide array of community members.
The economic impact to our community alone is well into the millions of dollars.
And now I have to look at the financial end of the school district and see where if we can continue to hire teachers.
Gianforte says he hopes the community testimony will help put a face to the issue and, in turn, help encourage President Biden to reverse his decision. In Glasgow, Coulter Anstad, MTN News.
Thanks, Coulter. Well, in his first sit-down interview since becoming Montana's new congressman, Republican Matt Rosendale spoke openly about what's ahead. That includes the Keystone Pipeline, COVID relief, and his plans for his term in a Democratic-controlled House. NPN's Andrea Lutz sat down with Rosendale at the Billings Public Library as he settles in.
After weeks in Washington, D.C., Montana's lone congressman, Matt Rosendale, is back in Montana.
It is just an absolute honor to represent the people across this state.
He says he's spent the last 3 days traveling eastern Montana, exploring the economic impact of the shutdown of the Keystone Pipeline after the Biden administration revoked the permit.
And we've already lost like 200 jobs immediately, and those jobs were really helping the local communities at a time when they needed it the most. When you start talking about counties that have populations of 1,500 to 3,000 people, and they're going to have a loss of revenue of $2.5 to $5 million a year, that is an enormous hit.
And here's another item keeping the Republican freshman representative busy: COVID relief. He says a current $1.9 trillion bill before Congress is riddled with other expenditures, saying the focus needs to be on getting money to businesses.
I think that we have to figure out who has actually suffered because of a job being shut down and make sure that they are made whole, is what I think. Okay, and there's a lot of people that not necessarily are going to be under those same circumstances. So let's not just take a big paintbrush and say everybody is going to be treated the exact same.
He's already been assigned to his committees and says his biggest focuses are immigration, healthcare, Veterans Affairs, and natural resources, saying he brings much experience already as Montana's former auditor.
And in order for our veterans to really receive the benefits that they've earned and that they certainly deserve, we have to have a smooth flow of information from the Department of Defense information, because that's what establishes what benefits they're supposed to get.
He's looking back at this year's major events, the election, insurrection, and inauguration.
I attended the inauguration. I believe in our institutions. I believe that they are solid and that we must support them. But to go through a 10-foot fence with a razor wire on top of it to attend the inauguration, it's disturbing.
He says even though he called for the removal of fellow Republican and neighboring Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney from the chair of the House Republican Conference, he says moving forward, it's water under the bridge.
Yesterday's news was yesterday's news, and what I focus on every day is what do we need to do today, and who can help me accomplish that today. And if we have an issue that comes up that she and I are going to, it's going to be beneficial for the country, for our respective states to work together, I absolutely can sit down and work with her.
Rosendale also addressing his stance on election fraud, saying testimony of irregularities in some state races need to be addressed at now the state level.
It was never about President Trump. To me, it was never about President Trump. It was never about a campaign or a candidate. What it was about is election integrity. And when you have thousands, not a handful, thousands of sworn affidavits, you have evidence that was never allowed to be produced in courtrooms. So I have to take the information from the different testimony that was presented to us on the House floor. That is why on several of the states, I rejected those electors.
We spoke for roughly a half hour, and he left no issue off the table for discussion. But when it comes to Montana and serving the state, he left us with this.
I mean, we get one representative, and when I walk into a committee meeting or a caucus meeting, they know. Montana, the guy from Montana, he represents 144,000 square miles and about 1 million people. And they also know that I keep in touch with all of them, and it is an honor to represent the people across this state.
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Thanks, Andrea. And you can watch Andrea's entire interview with Congressman Matt Rosendale online right now on KTVQ.com. There's some new developments regarding 3 Montanans who are facing charges for alleged actions at the U.S. Capitol. MTN's John Riley has more on that.
On Friday, Dillon business owner Hank Munzer entered a plea of not guilty to D.C. District Judge Amit Mehta. A grand jury indicted Munzer on 5 charges related to his alleged involvement in the Capitol riot. Charges include obstruction of a federal proceeding, entering and remaining in a restricted building, and parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building.
There's 5,000 people in the building, so they're going to arrest all 5,000 people and bring the same charges against them? Or just the people that are outspoken the most?
Munzer told MTN he plans to fight the charges and wants it to be clear he doesn't support violence against anyone and was just there to support former President Trump.
I was there supporting my president. I had no idea we were even going to the Capitol that day. You know what I'm saying? We didn't know that till he announced it at his speech.
There are also updates regarding Joshua and Jared Hughes, who are facing separate charges for their alleged actions at the Capitol on January 6th. A grand jury also returned 9 charges last week for the East Helena brothers. The charges include civil disorder, obstruction of an official proceeding, destruction of government property, disorderly conduct in the Capitol building, and entering and remaining on the floor of Congress. Prosecutors say the men were among the first 10 rioters to enter the Capitol at a certain part of the building. Investigators also accused Jared Hughes of working with another man to kick open a door to allow more people to enter the building. On February 1st, federal magistrate Judge John Johnson approved a motion to transfer the brothers back to Washington, D.C. The 2 men have yet to be arraigned on the charges they're accused of. Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News here on Q2, week 1 of the mass vaccination clinic at Metro Park's in the books. We'll hear how it went and the plans for the future coming up next.
I'm Casey Conlon at the brand new Lockwood High School Gymnasium, a perfect venue for the first ever Montana Girls State Wrestling Tournament. Day 1 coverage on the way.
We hit highs in the upper 30s today. It was the warmest day that we've had in the last 2 weeks, but the last time we hit upper 30s, we didn't think it was all that warm. We'll show you the weekend forecast in a couple of minutes.